What does it feel like to watch your father get shot right before your eyes? I don't know about others, but for me, it was pure hell. Terror, heartbreak, helplessness, emotions crashed into me all at once, leaving me drowning in grief. I cried the entire night after returning from the hospital, where the doctor had declared him dead. My mother tried to comfort me, but I locked myself in my room, refusing to let anyone see my weakness. And the next day, I went to school. People whispered, judged, called me heartless. They said it was unnatural for me to show up so soon after my father's death. Maybe they were right. Maybe I am heartless. The school day dragged on, filled with mocking stares and cruel words. Rich brat, lucky bastard, money can solve anything. They envied what they thought I had, completely blind to the fact that I had just lost the only man who ever truly tried to be there for me. After school, I didn't linger. Mr. Winslow, my family's most trusted worker, was already waiting for me. He picked me up and took me home like he always did, except now the mansion felt emptier. A week passed, and then everything changed. That day started like any other. I was in class when Henry, one of the usual troublemakers, yanked the necklace from my neck, the last gift from my father. I didn't react. I just stood there, frozen, watching him laugh. Then suddenly, crack, Henry's body slammed against the floor, Noah Winslow straddling him, fists raining down like a beast unleashed. The room turned silent, only filled with Henry's cries and the sickening sound of Noah's knuckles colliding with flesh. I'd never seen Noah like this before. Normally, he was a puppy. Soft-spoken, obedient, a little too polite, but this was a monster. His sharp eyes burned with fury, his perfect features twisted in an emotion I couldn't recognize. He grabbed Henry's collar, yanking him up only to slam him back down. Again, and again, blood stained Henry's face, his screams becoming weaker. I finally found my voice. And Noah, stop, enough, that's enough. No response. Noah, who always listened to me, who followed my orders without question, didn't even flinch. I felt something ice-cold creep into my chest. I'd never seen him ignore me before. Noah Winslow, that's an order. Let him go. The authority in my voice snapped him out of it. His fist stopped midair, his chest rising and falling in deep, heavy breaths. Slowly, like waking from a trance, he stood up. Without a word, he bent down, picked up my necklace from the floor, and turned to me. Henry scrambled away with his friends, the classroom quickly emptying, but I barely noticed. I could only stare at Noah. This wasn't the same man who had first arrived at the mansion. Back then, he was just the son of Mr. Winslow, a simple guy with a messy white shirt, slightly wrinkled jeans, and boots covered in dried mud. His deep, innocent eyes had shone with loyalty and patience. A good boy, his broad shoulders, perfect jawline, sharp nose, he was handsome as hell. But his personality had been the opposite of his intimidating looks. Obedient, gentle, a total puppy. I hated how he always called me Mr. Lucian Blackwood. I ordered him to call me by my name 100 times, but he never did. The most I got was him calling me, brother. He followed me around like a shadow, never questioning, never resisting. Until today. Today, he had ignored me. Today, he had turned into something else. Noah stepped closer, holding out the necklace. His deep brown eyes pierced through me, filled with something dark. Unreadable. Brother. His voice was soft, deep, husky. It sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. I didn't take the necklace immediately. Brother, are you okay? His voice softened further. Did I scare you? Are you mad at me? I stayed silent. His jaw clenched, his fingers tightening slightly around the necklace. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be like that. But I couldn't control it. He swallowed hard, his tone darkening. I don't like it when people try to wrong you. Anyone who does will face the consequences. His words held a weight that made my heartbeat pick up. There was something terrifying about his devotion. I reached for the necklace, my fingers brushing his as I took it. I'm not mad, just surprised. Don't be like that again. Try to solve it without violence next time, okay? He relaxed slightly and nodded. I turned around, trying to clasp the necklace behind my neck, but struggled with the hook. I felt his gaze burning into me. He wanted to help. He always did, but he never overstepped. I sighed. What are you standing there for? Help me. He blinked, then hesitated before finally stepping behind me. His cold fingers brushed against my skin as he fixed the clasp, sending a sharp jolt through my body. I felt him pause. He didn't move away. What is he doing? I frowned slightly. Are you done or not? He pulled back immediately. Yes, I am. His voice was quiet, almost reluctant. Then, a small pause. Brother, would you like to eat something? Together. His voice was soft again, hesitant. Like he was hoping. I turned to him, lips curling into a small smirk. Sure, let's go. His eyes lit up. As I walked ahead, I heard him following, just like always. But something had changed, and I wasn't sure if that was a good thing, or something much, much worse. After that day, Noah was back to his usual puppy self, always following and obeying me around. I stared at my phone, chatting with Mother as she informed me that she'd be late tonight and told me not to wait for her to eat. Sighing, I glanced up and casually said, I want to drink something. Noah, who had been watching the basketball match with mild interest, immediately perked up. Brother, what would you like? Your favorite yogurt. I nodded. He knew me well already. Without wasting a second, he rushed off to the nearest shop to get what I wanted. I stood there, waiting, and soon enough, he returned, popping the straw into the yogurt before handing it to me. Taking a sip, I felt a small sense of calm wash over me as the familiar taste settled in. My moment of peace, however, was interrupted when I noticed Noah suddenly raising his arms. Confused, I followed his gaze just in time to see a basketball flying straight toward my face. Before I could react, Noah effortlessly caught it with one hand. His large palm and long fingers completely engulfed the ball. He didn't even move, just stood there, staring at me as if nothing else existed. Then, with a casual flick of his wrist, he tossed the ball away, and it landed perfectly into the hoop. A hush fell over the players. Even I was momentarily stunned, the straw still in my mouth as I processed what just happened. I turned to look at Noah. He remained completely unfazed, his expression blank except for the small, almost imperceptible curve of his lips. Seriously, what is he? A main character. Why does he have to be so perfect? Brother, do you need anything else? Noah asked, his tone as obedient as ever. I shook my head, studying him from head to toe. He was always wearing the same damn clothes. No fashion sense whatsoever. An idea popped into my mind. Follow me, I said. Noah blinked in confusion but, of course, followed without question, like the obedient puppy he was. Which one looks good? I wondered, sifting through the expensive, polished clothes. Yes, I had dragged him into a high-end store. Noah looked utterly lost, glancing around uncomfortably. Yet, despite his obvious discomfort, he clung to me, following my every step like a shadow. I found it amusing, but I didn't say anything as I absurdly threw luxurious outfits at him. Go change, I ordered. He hesitated for a moment before nodding. When Noah stepped out wearing a perfectly tailored outfit, I smirked. Damn, didn't know you could actually look like a rich person. Noah shifted uncomfortably. I don't need these things. I rolled my eyes. Yes, you do. I ignored his protests and bought everything anyway. Brother, I really don't need. Shut up. You do need them. They're yours now. My bodyguard needs to look good standing next to me. I hope you wear them. Noah clenched his jaw but didn't argue. He didn't even change back. He walked out of the store in the black tee and jeans I picked for him, the outfit highlighting his long legs and sharp features. His ridiculous handsomeness drew the attention of store workers and passers-by alike. I smirked. Feeling a strange sense of pride, I said, let's go get something to eat. At a nearby cafe, I grabbed a caramel coffee, and after urging Noah 3 times, he finally settled for a milkshake. As we walked along the sidewalk, Noah, holding all the shopping bags, kept nudging me toward the inner side of the road. I frowned. Why are you pushing me? Noah didn't answer. I huffed. Seriously, what's your problem? Finally, he muttered. If a car jumps the curb, it'll hit me first. I blinked, stunned. You're insane. Noah shrugged. It's safer this way. Rolling my eyes, I decided to let it go. Arguing with him was useless. Just then, he reached out and took the single shopping bag I was holding. I sighed, now slightly irritated. Noah Winslow, it's not even heavy. I know, he said, nodding like an obedient puppy. I squinted at him. Then why are you carrying it? You're already holding a lot. Noah, dead serious, said, why should you? I sighed again but didn't bother taking it back. Arguing was pointless. As we walked, I noticed how his eyes constantly scanned the surroundings, his body tense and alert. Noah, can you stop always being so? A sudden gunshot cut me off. Before I could react, Noah instantly moved, shielding me with his broad body. The playfulness vanished from his face, replaced by a sharp, deadly expression. In one swift motion, he pulled out a gun from his leg holster and fired back at the attacker, some guy dressed in black, hiding behind a car. The moment Noah retaliated, the shooter quickly jumped into a vehicle and sped away. People around us screamed, ducking for cover. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized I was trembling slightly. Noah turned to me immediately, his expression softening as he gently placed his hands on my shoulders. His face, once cold and lethal, now brimmed with concern. "Brother, are you okay? Did you get hurt?" His voice was apologetic. "I'm sorry, it was so sudden. I must have scared you." I gripped his arm, taking shaky breaths before nodding. I'm fine." Noah carefully examined me, making sure I was unharmed. Only after confirming I was okay did he let out a small sigh of relief. But his protectiveness only grew stronger as he pulled me closer to his side. "Brother," he hesitated, then asked softly, "if you don't mind, can I hold your hand?" "Why like." He trailed off, as if worried I'd reject him. Without hesitation, I intertwined my fingers with his. "Just hold it if you want. No need to ask. I've told you 1,000 times, stop treating me like I'm a god or something. Treat me like a friend. A normal person, okay." Noah stared at me, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. Then, he nodded quietly and started walking ahead, holding my hand securely. I followed behind, stealing glances at our hands. Damn it, why does my hand look so tiny in his? This hurts my pride. He's only 7 centimeters taller than me, yet everything about him is so big, why? Sulking silently, I walked beside him as we made our way back to the mansion. As I expected, the moment we reached home, Noah immediately reported the entire shooting incident to my mother. Her reaction, she wrapped me in a tight hug, her worry practically suffocating me. "Oh my God, Lucian. Are you okay, my baby?" she cried, squeezing me even tighter. I sighed, letting her fuss over me while Noah stood nearby, his usual puppy-like expression soft with concern. "Thank you so much for protecting my son, Noah." "I don't know how to thank you," she said sincerely, her eyes filled with gratitude. Noah, ever the obedient puppy, only smiled, his gaze never leaving me. "I hope you're not hurt. Are you?" Mother asked, turning her concern toward Noah. Noah shook his head. "I'm fine, ma'am." She continued pampering me, making sure I was unharmed, while I glanced across the room where Mr. Winslow had pulled Noah aside for a serious talk. Okay, not gonna lie. Noah being all serious was kind of unholy. Sexy and hot, even. Meanwhile, "I'm proud of you for keeping him safe, Noah." Mr. Winslow said firmly, his usual strict expression softening for just a moment. Noah only nodded, but his eyes remained locked on me, still struggling to free myself from my mother's embrace. Mr. Winslow's gaze sharpened. "But what's with you? You're wearing such expensive clothes. Are you going on dates or something?" Noah blinked, as if the question didn't even make sense to him. "Haven't I told you before? As long as you're with young Master Lucian, you must not focus on anything else. No distractions, no dates, just think of yourself as locked with him. You shouldn't see anything other than him." There was no hesitation in Noah's response. He didn't even deny it. He simply smiled softly, his eyes flickering back to me, still trapped in my mother's arms, before speaking. "I know, Dad." His voice was quiet, but there was no mistaking the weight behind those words. Noah was dead serious, more serious than anyone could ever imagine. As long as he breathed, no harm would ever come near me. And he would make sure of that. "Damn, my mom can be a bit too much," I exclaimed, flopping onto my bed with a sigh. Noah, standing nearby, just smiled. "She's just worried about you." Yeah, I nodded absent-mindedly, staring at the ceiling for a few minutes before an idea struck me. My lips curled into a smirk. "Let's watch a movie." Noah blinked in surprise. "Huh, I said I wanna watch a movie, and obviously, watching alone is boring. So, you're coming with me." Before he could protest, I grabbed his wrist, tugging him forward. He stumbled slightly, looking confused. Where are we going?" he asked. I shot him a look. "My room, duh." Noah stiffened, his steps faltering. "Oh, right, this would be his first time entering my bedroom. I'd told him 1,000 times before that he could, but he always refused, mumbling something about respect and boundaries. Well, too bad for him. Tonight, I wasn't giving him a choice. I jumped onto the bed, getting cozy under the blankets, while Noah just stood stiffly at the doorway like a lost puppy. "Get inside," I said casually, but he hesitated. I narrowed my eyes. I said, "Get inside. It's an order." That finally did the trick. With a deep breath, he reluctantly stepped in, his movements slow and cautious, as if stepping into my room was some sacred ritual. I patted the soft mattress beside me, signaling him to sit down. He hesitated again, but after catching my glare, he quickly sat down beside me, his back straight like a soldier reporting for duty. Rolling my eyes, I grabbed the remote, turning off the room's lights. The only illumination left was from the large TV screen as I clicked on the movie I'd been meaning to watch for a long time. The glow flickered across the room, casting soft shadows. Noah sat unnaturally still beside me. I smirked. "Relax, it's just a movie. I'm not gonna bite." He blinked at me before nodding, adjusting himself slightly. His movements were still stiff, but at least he wasn't acting like he had stepped into enemy territory anymore. The movie began, and I settled in, ready to enjoy the night. As the movie played, I got comfortable, pulling the blanket over myself while sipping on my drink. Noah, on the other hand, sat awkwardly at the edge of the bed, his hands resting on his knees, his entire posture too rigid for someone watching a movie. I sighed. "Dude, relax. You look like you're at a job interview." Noah shifted uncomfortably but still didn't loosen up. His eyes remained focused on the screen, though I could tell he wasn't really paying attention. After a while, I got too engrossed in the movie to bother with him. The plot was finally getting good, and just as the suspenseful part kicked in, bam! A sudden jump scare flashed on the screen. I flinched slightly, not that I was scared or anything. But then I felt something, a weight against my shoulder. I turned my head slowly. Noah had flinched so hard he leaned onto me. I stared at him in disbelief. "Did you just get scared?" His entire body stiffened as he quickly sat upright. "And no," I smirked. "Liar." His ears turned slightly red, and he avoided my gaze, pretending to focus on the movie. I chuckled. "Wow, the big scary bodyguard is afraid of horror movies. Should I protect you instead?" I teased, nudging him playfully. Noah clenched his jaw but didn't reply. He was clearly embarrassed, which only made me more amused. I decided to let it go and continued watching. But then, another sudden scary scene. And guess what? Noah flinched again. This time, I burst into laughter. "Oh my God, you're actually scared." Noah scowled. "I'm not." I wiped away a tear from laughing too much. "Yeah, sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, tough guy." Just for fun, I subtly shifted closer to him, leaning in slightly. "Hey, Noah," I whispered. He tensed. "What?" I smirked. "Boo." Noah jerked so hard he almost fell off the bed. I lost it. Noah stared at me, sulking slightly as I kept teasing him. Honestly, it was too cute to watch, but I was definitely enjoying it. I couldn't help but giggle at his embarrassed expression before something popped into my head. I leaned closer to him, watching as he immediately turned his head away, clearly uncomfortable. His ears had gone slightly pink, and he couldn't quite meet my eyes. Maybe he was just a shy good boy who was scared of horror movies, so cute. "About earlier," I began, teasing him with a soft smirk. "You know how to handle a gun so well, yet you're scared of horror movies." I chuckled lightly before continuing. "Anyway, where did you learn to shoot? It's so cool." Noah seemed to pause for a moment, his gaze drifting away. "I took a week's practice in gun shooting, and some necessary fight moves," he answered casually. "In a week only?" I raised an eyebrow. "Wow, you're really unbelievable," I said in awe. I couldn't believe he'd learned all that in such a short time. It was impressive. "Anyway, shooting guns is cool. Teach me too, okay?" I asked with a grin. He met my gaze, his eyes locked onto mine for a long moment before he nodded slowly, smiling softly. We went back to watching the movie, and before I knew it, I had drifted off to sleep without even realizing it. The next thing I knew, it was 6 a.m. My eyes fluttered open, and I rubbed them, groggy. When I looked over, I saw Noah sitting near the edge of the bed, his eyes a little tired as he quickly looked away, scratching his hair nervously. I sat up, stretching with a yawn, before noticing something odd. Noah looked exhausted. Had he not slept at all? "Have you been watching the movie all night and didn't sleep?" I asked casually, confused. Noah hesitated, his eyes shifting. After a moment, He nodded quickly, though it seemed forced. Why yeah, it was interesting, he said, but I couldn't shake the feeling he was lying. If he hadn't slept or watched the movie, what had he been doing instead? It couldn't be that he just stared at me all night, could it? No way I was thinking that. I shook my head, pushing the thought away. Go make me breakfast. I'm going to freshen up, I ordered, trying to shake the odd feeling. Noah nodded quickly and stood up, but then he froze. He looked down at the bed, as if waiting for me to say something. I frowned, confused. What? The bed? He muttered. I blinked, puzzled. Did he want to make the bed? No need. Go. I snapped, a little impatient. He nodded so quickly, like a scared puppy, and rushed out of the room. What the heck was that about? Was he really thinking I couldn't make my own bed? The class was empty when I arrived. I sat at the last row, took out my books, and began reading. Noah wasn't around, but I didn't mind. That day, after he caught the ball and threw it perfectly into the hoop, every player became his fan, urging him to join the game. Of course, he hesitated at first, but after some convincing, I insisted he play, and he agreed. He had some serious skills and a natural talent for basketball. Watching him made me realize how hot he looked while playing, and it wasn't just me, every girl was fangirling over him. Sure, he was cool, but the attention from everyone else made me roll my eyes. Noah wanted to be with me, but I encouraged him to enjoy the game. He didn't always have to be around me, and I liked the idea of him having fun on his own. So, I stayed behind and did some notes, but my peace didn't last long. The door opened, and of course, it was Henry. What did he want now? I noticed his wounds had healed, but the marks were still there. Noah definitely knew how to handle a fight. Henry wasn't just a classmate, he was my cousin. We shared the same uncle, Mr. Robert Grace, a man I didn't know what to think of. He was distant, aloof, and had a complicated history with my parents. I overheard once that he used to hate my father because my mother chose him over him. Since my parents passed away, he raised Henry on his own after his parents died in an accident. He was Henry's father figure, but Henry still called him uncle. Henry walked up to me with his arms crossed. Tomorrow's my birthday. Uncle told me to invite you. You can come and enjoy. Take it as an apology for last time, too, he said, his expression nonchalant. I nodded. I'll come. He stared at me for a moment before, as expected, we heard running footsteps, and the door flew open. Noah rushed in like his life depended on it, immediately moving beside me and raising his arm to shield me, glaring at Henry as though he thought he was about to harm me. Whoa, dude, calm down. I'm not doing anything, okay? Henry raised his hands in surrender. Noah, I said softly, trying to calm him down. After a moment, he relaxed but continued glaring at Henry, who slowly backed away. Anyway, make sure to come tomorrow, Henry said. You can bring him too if you want. With that, he left, leaving the two of us alone. I turned to Noah. What's with you? Stop scaring people away from me. Noah nodded, looking down, like a puppy being scolded. I couldn't help but smile a little. He was breathing heavily, his forehead covered in sweat from the game and his little sprint to protect me. Are you done playing? I asked. He nodded. Tomorrow night we have a party to attend, so be ready, I said casually. Whose? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Henry's, I replied. He opened his mouth to say something but then closed it, nodding instead like a polite child. I smiled and got up. Let's go grab something to eat, I said, lightly patting his hair as I passed by. I couldn't miss the red on his ears and the shy smile on his face. I giggled, and Noah trailed behind me, still a little flustered. The grand hall of Henry's mansion was filled with glittering chandeliers, classical music, and elegantly dressed guests. It was extravagant, just like I expected from my uncle. The atmosphere was lively, but I couldn't care less about it. I adjusted my suit, scanning the crowd as I stepped in with Noah beside me. He was wearing a sleek black suit, fitting him too well. His hair was neatly styled, and for some reason, he looked more polished than usual. The moment we walked in, I could feel the eyes on us, especially on Noah. Girls whispered among themselves, sneaking glances at him. Tisk, I clicked my tongue, rolling my eyes. Brother, are you okay? Noah asked, leaning in slightly. I scoffed. Of course, just annoyed by unnecessary attention. Noah, clueless as ever, just nodded. Henry approached us, holding a glass of wine. Glad you made it, he said, eyeing Noah for a second before turning back to me. Enjoy the party. Uncle's looking for you, by the way. I sighed. Of course he is. Henry smiled in tiny and wary. He's at the lounge. You should go greet him. I glanced at Noah. You stay here. Don't get lost. He nodded obediently, though I could tell he wasn't comfortable. But he had to deal with it. I wasn't taking him to my uncle. As I walked away, I didn't miss how a group of girls immediately surrounded Noah, trying to talk to him. He looked completely overwhelmed. Good. Let him suffer a bit. I found my uncle in the lounge, sitting on a luxurious leather chair with a glass of whiskey in hand. He looked as cold and distant as ever. You called for me, I said, standing before him with my arms crossed. He studied me for a moment before gesturing to the seat across from him. Sit. I hesitated but eventually did. How's life? He asked, his tone unreadable. I scoffed. Since when do you care? He smirked slightly. You're still sharp-tongued. I rolled my eyes. Let's skip the small talk. What do you want? His expression darkened slightly. I see you brought a bodyguard. I frowned. Noah, he's my friend. Friend. He chuckled dryly. Or something else. I stiffened. What are you trying to say? He took a sip of his whiskey before setting the glass down. You should be careful about who you let get close to you. Not everyone has good intentions. I clenched my fists under the table. You don't know him, and you do. I gritted my teeth, standing up. I'm done with this conversation. Just as I turned to leave, he spoke again. Be careful, Lucian. You wouldn't want to end up like your father. I paused for a second before walking out, ignoring the bitterness in my chest. When I returned to the party, I immediately spotted Noah. And I immediately regretted leaving him alone. He was surrounded by 3 girls, all laughing, one even touching his arm. And the worst part, he looked helpless. He wasn't flirting back, but he also wasn't escaping. His eyes were darting around like he was looking for someone, probably me. I don't know why, but my chest tightened. My feet moved before my mind even processed it. I strode over, grabbed Noah's wrist, and pulled him away. The girls looked shocked, but I didn't care. Noah blinked at me. Brother, Tisk, what are you doing, huh? I muttered. Letting random girls touch you. His eyes widened. I wasn't. I sighed dramatically. You're so hopeless. Can't even handle a few girls. His ears turned red. I wasn't interested. I smirked. Good. He looked confused but followed me without question. I wasn't jealous. Definitely not. I just rescued him. That's all. The party continued. Tension in the room felt suffocating, and I couldn't ignore the prickling sensation on the back of my neck. My uncle's gaze was burning through the crowd, and every time I glanced over, I could feel it more intensely. Something was off, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this party than a simple celebration. Noah's innocent question broke me from my thoughts. Brother, where are you going? Let me come too. I sighed, irritation bubbling up again. Aish, stop always following me, okay? It's a grand party, go enjoy yourself. There are so many pretty girls around, go flirt with someone or something. Noah blinked at me, genuinely confused. Why'd I do that? I couldn't help but roll my eyes. To have fun, get experienced. You can't always be a puppy hanging around me, okay? Gosh, you act like you only exist for me. His gaze softened, and without hesitation, he replied, I do. My breath caught. His words were simple, but the sincerity behind them caught me completely off guard. Why, you're so dumb, can't you be normal? I stammered, trying to cover up the flustered feeling spreading through me. Noah let out an invisible sigh as though he had come to accept that I was being difficult. Brother, I am being normal. My normal is being with you. I froze for a moment. His words hit me harder than I expected. How could someone as pure and genuine as Noah feel this way? He was always so earnest, never pretending to be anything other than what he was. Before I could process any more of this, I forced myself to snap back to reality. Anyway, just stay here, okay? I'll go talk for a bit. Don't follow me. His expression darkened slightly, but he nodded. Okay. I sighed, stepping away, and made my way toward Henry. The birthday gift, a small, expensive watch, was neatly tucked in my hand as I approached him. I handed it over with a forced smile, wishing him a happy birthday. He stiffened slightly but took it from me, his eyes flickering with something unreadable. Without warning, Henry grabbed my wrist, pulling me away from the crowd. The sudden movement surprised me, and before I could react, we were in a secluded corner of the mansion. Listen, Lucian Blackwood, he said, his voice low and intense, I've never had any grudge against you, nor do I hate you. You must hate me for my past deeds, but lately, I feel like you should know the truth. Whatever I do to you, it's not what I want. That day, with the necklace, I didn't steal it for myself either. His words were strange, cryptic, and tinged with guilt. His grip on my wrist tightened, making me wince slightly, but I stayed silent, waiting for him to continue. Uncle, he's planning something, Lucian, Henry continued, his voice barely a whisper now. He wanted you to come here alone. But since you didn't come alone, he wants something from you. I don't know exactly what it is, but when the cake is cut, you need to leave. Take Noah and leave quickly. Please, be careful. My heart skipped a beat as the realization hit me. My uncle, the cold and distant man, was plotting something. Now, his words from earlier made sense. I always knew he was up to something, but this felt more dangerous than I ever imagined. I was too speechless to form any coherent response, so instead, I just nodded in understanding. Henry looked at me with a soft, almost regretful gaze. Also, don't hate me, he said quietly, his voice softening. I smiled gently, my heart softening. No, I don't. You may have angered me, but I never hated you. Don't worry. His eyes brightened with a hint of relief. I hope we can be like normal cousins, but our family doesn't allow it. Before I could respond, I felt a tug on my other wrist. The grip was firm, and I turned to see none other than Noah, his face hard and furious. What's going on here? Noah's voice was sharp, his eyes burning with a fierce protectiveness as he pulled me closer to him. His gaze locked onto Henry, who immediately let go of my wrist. I stared at Noah, dumbfounded. What was he doing? Why was he acting so possessive? Noah's glare didn't soften as he stood in front of me, like a shield. What do you want? Stay away from him. He's mine. Excuse me. I was completely caught off guard, my heart hammering in my chest. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, and I felt a strange flutter in my chest. Why the hell did my heart skip a beat? Yeah, Noah, I muttered, finally breaking out of my daze. Noah turned to look at me, his expression still intense. Are you okay, brother? His eyes scanned me from head to toe, as if checking for any signs of harm. I'm fine. Can you stop being so hot-headed all the time? And stop glaring at him. I tried to sound firm, but deep down, my heart was racing. Noah hesitated for a moment before nodding reluctantly, though he still looked sulking. He backed away slightly but kept his eyes fixed on Henry. Henry let out a small laugh. Damn, I thought I was going to die from that glare alone. I shot Noah an exasperated look, but there was no denying that he looked almost cute when he was like this. It felt like a mother scolding her naughty kid. Still, despite my irritation, there was a small, unexplainable warmth in my chest. The party resumed after the cake was cut, and everyone applauded. I took a sip of red wine, and something about it tasted off. I took another sip, almost like a child tasting ice cream for the first time. My eyes drifted to Noah, who was staring at me with a soft expression. What are you staring at? I snapped, irritated. Noah didn't answer. Instead, he quickly grabbed a tissue and leaned in to wipe my lips gently, leaving me stunned. My heart raced. Wait, it wasn't mine. I could hear his heart beating too, and the way he backed away so quickly, it was as if we were both shocked. Sorry, brother, he said, looking down in embarrassment. I blinked, my heart still thumping. This wasn't right. I couldn't feel this way, not about him. I needed to stop before it got worse. But before I could shake off the feeling, the room suddenly went pitch dark. I flinched, and I felt Noah instantly pull me close, his body shielding mine as he became alert. The lights came back on within minutes, but when I opened my eyes, the entire room was empty, and everyone else had fainted. The cake, thankfully, I didn't like sweets, and neither did Noah. We'd avoided it. Then, my eyes met a man in black standing near the entrance, holding a gun. I instinctively froze. Noah, always sharp, pulled out his gun in the blink of an eye, stepping in front of me, his expression as hard as stone. We have no business with you. If you value your life, let go of that kid and leave, the man said, his voice cold, his face hard. They were Uncle's goons, I was sure of it. But where was Uncle? What was he planning? My stomach churned in nervousness. I grabbed onto Noah's shoulder, my voice barely above a whisper. Noah, don't get into a fight, let's just leave. Please. Noah didn't reply immediately. I knew he was calculating his next move. Then, suddenly, he spoke, "Cover your eyes." I was confused, but before I could protest, he repeated, "Cover your ears and close your eyes," and I did, closing them tightly. A gunshot echoed through the room, followed by a man's pained cry. When I opened my eyes again, the man had been shot in the leg, writhing in pain, and Noah immediately grabbed my wrist, pulling me with him. We bolted toward the glass window as gunshots rang out behind us. "Close your eyes and jump," Noah yelled suddenly. Without thinking, I did as he said. I squeezed my eyes shut just as we leapt toward the window. The glass shattered, but Noah made sure not a single glass touched me, and we landed safely on the ground. We didn't stop running. Our breaths were heavy, the night air cool against our skin. As we ran, I noticed blood on Noah's arm. Of course, the glass must have cut him, but he didn't seem to care. He only focused on getting us out of there, keeping me safe. We ran for what felt like forever, finally stopping in a shady part of the jungle. We both collapsed, breathing heavily, our chests heaving as we tried to catch our breath. Noah immediately grabbed my shoulder, his expression full of concern. "Brother, are you hurt?" he asked. I couldn't help but snap at him. "Seriously, is that all you care about? You're the one bleeding. Can you for once think about yourself?" My emotions were all over the place, my fear, my anger, and my confusion all hitting me at once. Noah didn't say anything, he just stayed quiet. "Why are we here? Let's go home," I said, my voice weak. "No, we can't. It's too risky," Noah replied, shaking his head. I didn't understand. "No, we need to. Uncle isn't here, who knows what his actual plan is? This feels like a setup." I took out my phone and called my mother. One ring, then nothing. A second ring, and the call was answered. But it wasn't the voice I expected. It was my uncle. Well, looks like it's my nephew, Lucian Blackwood," Robert Grace's voice sounded, cold and filled with malice. "Lucian," my mother screamed in the background. "Lucian, don't come here. Stay away, stay safe." I froze. What? Before I could ask more, the call ended abruptly. I stood there, speechless. My mind raced, unable to process the danger. Another phone rang. It was Noah's. He picked it up stiffly. It was Mr. Winslow. "Father," Noah's voice faltered as Mr. Winslow spoke urgently. "Noah, son, don't come here. Stay away. Keep Lucian safe. Go somewhere safe. Don't ever come here. You must protect him." Mr. Winslow's voice was frantic. "And no. Wait, where's Mom? What's going on? I can't run away. This isn't fair." My voice trembled as I couldn't hold it in any longer. The fear, the confusion, the pressure, it all burst out in tears. The rain started pouring down, the sound of raindrops mixing with the sound of my sniffles. I cried silently, the weight of everything crashing over me. And then, a thick cloth was draped over me. Noah had taken off his suit jacket and covered my head, shielding me from both the rain and my own tears. He leaned in, gently patting my back, and I broke down even more. I leaned against him, the pain, the fear, everything flooding out as I cried in his arms. I breathed heavily as I sat on the balcony of the hotel, the cool night air brushing against my face. We had found shelter here for the night, a low-level, not-so-expensive hotel near the jungle. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep us safe for now. I was wearing casual clothes, my eyes staring up at the sky, lost in thought. Noah had gone out to get food for me, though I begged him to see a doctor for his wound. But he refused, so I asked him at least to bring back some basic meds. When he finally returned to the room, I didn't even bother with the food. I grabbed him by the arm and pulled him to sit down. The packet of bandages and meds in my hand, I rolled up his sleeve in silence, my eyes focused on his bleeding arm. Noah didn't protest, he just sat there, watching me as I treated him, his gaze soft but unreadable. I could feel the tension between us, the air thick with unspoken words. I applied the antiseptic and began wrapping the bandage around his arm, but I couldn't ignore the way his presence made everything inside me feel unsettled. His silence was deafening as I worked, but I didn't mind. It was enough for now. I focused on the task at hand, wanting to take care of him even if he refused to take care of himself. When I finished, I let out a breath, and our eyes met. He didn't look away, and for a moment, it felt like the world around us had stopped. "Thank you," I murmured, unsure of what else to say. My voice felt small in the quiet room, but the sincerity was there. Noah didn't respond right away. Instead, he just nodded, his gaze still locked on me. I wanted to say more, to ask him if he was okay, but the words felt stuck in my throat. For a long while, neither of us spoke. The night dragged on, heavy with tension and unspoken thoughts. Lucian struggled to fall asleep, his mind racing with too many emotions. But eventually, exhaustion claimed him, and he drifted into a fitful slumber. Noah, on the other hand, remained wide awake, his gaze fixed on Lucian. He sat quietly in the darkness, his expression unreadable, as he observed the way Lucian's lips trembled in his sleep, calling out for his mother. His cheeks were puffy, swollen from crying, and his face was flushed a deep red. Noah's heart tightened at the sight, but he didn't move. He couldn't. He just sat there, frozen in the moment, feeling something stir deep within him. Noah remembered the first time he laid eyes on Lucian. It wasn't supposed to be anything significant, just another assignment from his father, Mr. Winslow. He had been brought here to the village, tasked with keeping an eye on the Blackwood family, specifically Lucian. At first, he didn't understand why his father was so insistent on keeping the family safe, especially Lucian. But as Noah spent more time around them, the weight of it all became clearer. One night, Mr. Winslow had finally broken down, his voice shaking as he recounted how he had fallen into crippling debt. The lenders had come after him, threatening his life, and when his wife, Mrs. Winslow, couldn't handle it, she took her own life. The debt collectors didn't stop there. They wanted Noah, only 7 years old at the time, as compensation. They intended to sell him off. Noah's father had collapsed in the middle of the road, crying hysterically, when Lucian's late father, Mr. Blackwood, had appeared. Without a second thought, Mr. Blackwood paid off every last cent of the debt, saving Noah and his father. From that day on, Mr. Winslow had worked under the Blackwood family, ever grateful for the man who had saved his son. After Lucian's father died, Mr. Winslow had brought Noah here to stay with the Blackwoods. That was when Noah's world had shifted. At first, he had thought protecting someone was easy. After all, that was what he had been trained to do, be a bodyguard, a protector. But it wasn't until he saw Lucian for the first time that he truly understood the weight of the word. The moment their eyes met, something clicked. It was an undeniable pull, a force that Noah couldn't explain. It was like the very core of his being had shifted, and suddenly, protecting Lucian wasn't just a job. It was his purpose. Noah had fallen the moment their paths crossed. Lucian had no idea, and Noah intended to keep it that way. He buried his feelings deep inside, unwilling to risk letting Lucian know how much he meant to him. He reached out, his hand hovering just above Lucian's sleeping face. He longed to touch him, to feel the warmth of his skin, but he pulled back at the last second. It was like trying to touch the moon, so beautiful, so distant, just beyond his reach. Noah let out a soft sigh, his fingers curling into a fist as he fought the urge to give in to the feeling swirling inside him. The weight of it all was suffocating, but he kept it hidden, buried deep inside. Lucian had no idea how much he had already claimed Noah's heart, and Noah wasn't sure if he could ever let him know. The next day I woke again, noticing the heaviness in Noah's eyes. I propped myself up on the headboard and asked, "Did you not sleep?" "I did," he replied quietly. "Liar," I snapped, rolling my eyes. I sighed and continued, "So now what? What are we supposed to do, stay here forever? Shouldn't we go and save Mother and your dad?" I waited for an answer, but Noah said nothing. That day passed in a quiet haze as we wandered through the jungle and nearby trails. The jungle was a shady maze of uneven ground and tangled undergrowth, yet Noah was always there, guiding me and shielding me from unfamiliar faces. I felt like a child under his constant protection. He made sure I was safe, even when I wanted to explore on my own. In those moments, with every caring glance and gentle touch, I realized how deeply my feelings for him were growing, though I'd never admit it aloud. 2 days later, our routine was unbroken. I trailed behind Noah, watching him as he led me through the dense paths. His quiet presence, his ever-watchful eye, made me feel both safe and inexplicably confined. And then, at night, the calm air shifted when a call from Henry came through. Noah's jealousy was evident at the mere mention of my name, but I managed to soothe him and answer the call. Henry's voice was brisk as he informed us that Uncle wanted me to come over. I was surprised, worried for Mother, yet I knew I had to obey family. Henry promised to send the address later. When the call ended, I spoke firmly, I will go alone. No's face contorted in disbelief. Huh, what, why, he asked. Yes, you heard right, I will go alone. You aren't following me around, okay? Don't you dare show up. And from tomorrow, we're going our separate ways, I declared sternly. He blinked, his eyes wide. What? He murmured. I mean it, you're going your way and I'm going mine. The situation is growing dangerous. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? You don't deserve to be caught up in this when you have nothing to do with it. Please, think of your own life and leave me alone. My words, meant to sound pragmatic, trembled with the weight of unspoken emotions. For a long moment, No's eyes filled with tears as he reached out, gripping my wrist tightly and pulling me close. But you're my life, he whispered, his voice raw with vulnerability. How can I leave you alone? That's impossible. I stared at him, my heart pounding fiercely. I tried to pull my wrist away, trying to regain control. Stop being ridiculous, Noah. Stop thinking only of me. For once, think about yourself and run away, okay? I pleaded, but his tear-filled, glittering eyes held me in place. I couldn't stand it any longer. Overwhelmed by the tension and the fierce protectiveness in his gaze, I slowly leaned in and pressed my lips against his. It was a tentative kiss at first, a soft, trembling touch that spoke of years of bottled-up feelings. When I pulled back to see his reaction, No's eyes widened in shock, and I saw a mixture of wonder and fear in them. Grabbing his hands, I whispered, I like you. I don't want you to get hurt for me. My life is dangerous, and you don't deserve to be stuck in it when you have nothing to lose. Please, you need to listen to me and leave me alone, okay? My voice cracked as I spoke, and I felt my own tears threatening to spill. No's body tensed, every line of him betraying shock as if this was something he'd never dared imagine. What do you want to do? I asked softly, my fingers caressing his cheek. Since it's our last night together, I'll allow you to do anything you want with me. I whispered, our proximity and the quiet of the night magnifying every heartbeat. He opened his mouth to speak, but I hushed him with another gentle kiss. At least for tonight, call me by my name, I urged with a playful, yet desperate smile. I needed him to see me, not just as his charge, or his brother, but as Lucian Blackwood. He stared at me for several long seconds before, with trembling resolve, he leaned in and pressed his lips against mine again. This time the kiss deepened, soft and sensual at first, then growing firmer and more demanding. Our tongues met in a slow, burning dance as No's hands roamed with a tenderness that belied his usual stoicism. He held me as if I were the most fragile thing in the world, every touch promising protection, every caress confessing feelings he'd long kept buried. Lucian, he finally murmured, his voice thick with emotion. Hearing my name spoken by him, so softly, so earnestly, sent a thrill through me. Don't hold back, I whispered against his lips. Do it the way you really want to. His hesitation melted away, and soon his kiss grew passionate and fierce, claiming every bit of the space between us. I reveled in it, knowing in my heart that despite all the danger and the uncertain future, this moment, our last night together, was ours alone. In that fevered, moonlit embrace, with the jungle night as our witness, I allowed myself to feel everything, fear, desire, and a bittersweet longing for a future that might never be. And in that passionate surrender, I hoped that maybe, just maybe, we'd find a way to rewrite our destiny. The morning air was thick as I stepped into the abandoned place Henry had sent me to. This was where Uncle wanted to meet. I had left Noah behind after spending the entire night together. At dawn, while he was still asleep, I silently wrote him a sorry letter and slipped away. Now, here I was. Every step I took was a struggle. My body ached, sore from the night before. I had thought he was a puppy, but no. He was a beast, a total predator once he let go of all his emotions. He had ravished me completely. Not that I was complaining, I loved every second of it. But now wasn't the time to think about that. I needed to focus. That was when I heard footsteps. Uncle. He walked in, a smirk on his face as if he had won the entire world. Behind him stood Henry, his face tense and worried, his eyes silently pleading with me to stay calm. I turned to my uncle, my expression cold. Where's my mother? You told me to come here, I did as you asked. Now, where is she? He only smirked wider, enjoying the power he thought he held over me. And then, bang, the sharp sound of a gunshot echoed through the empty space. I flinched, instinctively covering my ears before slowly opening my eyes. My uncle was on the ground, groaning in pain, gripping his leg where blood oozed from the wound. He cursed under his breath. Stunned, I looked up. Noah Winslow stood there, gun in hand, his gaze like stone. Cold, merciless, completely unbothered by the scene before him. Uncle struggled, gasping in pain. No, this can't. Who the hell are you? Why are you here, Henry? Why you betrayed me? Is this why you told me not to bring any guards? Wow, I really sinned by trusting you. I thought you were my son, yet you betrayed me. Henry clenched his fists, his face filled with guilt, but also a hint of quiet resolve. I was fed up, always listening to you, being your puppet. I told you countless times to stop, but you never changed. I couldn't take it anymore. I'm sorry. The moment those words left his lips, police officers stormed in, surrounding my uncle. In mere seconds, it was over. Everything had happened so fast that I barely noticed Noah's eyes now locked onto me. His gaze pierced through me, intense and unreadable. I shifted uncomfortably. What? I asked, trying to sound normal. And then, the man who had just shot someone without blinking suddenly broke into silent tears. I was stunned, not exactly surprised, but still, seeing him cry so openly left me at a loss. You left me behind, he finally spoke, his voice trembling, sounding like a lost puppy abandoned by its owner. I sighed. You followed me back anyway. It hasn't even been 2 hours. 2 hours felt like 2 ages. His voice was dramatic, yet somehow, it still held so much raw intensity. I sighed again, hesitating before finally stepping forward and pulling him into a gentle hug. Okay, enough. Stop crying already, gosh. I felt his body tense before he melted into my embrace. My arms wrapped around him, and I patted his back softly. We watched as the police took Uncle away, and soon, my mother and Mr. Winslow were rescued. The moment she saw me, my mother ran over, squeezing me like a teddy bear, crying and kissing me all over my face. I stood there awkwardly, unsure how to react to the overwhelming affection. I glanced at Noah, who was softly watching me while talking to his father. Henry stood off to the side, alone, clearly sad and broken. My mother noticed and called him over. You did such a great job back there. Thank you for helping us. She hugged him warmly. We are your family too, remember? Don't feel brokenhearted. Stay with us, spend time with us. I'd love to have you around. I nodded in agreement, and Henry's sad expression slowly melted into a genuine, happy smile. With time, everything settled. Uncle finally admitted to being the one responsible for my father's death, along with another businessman who hated my dad. The police caught him too. Henry officially became part of our family, my cousin, my best friend, though Noah still hated him. Well, Noah hates everyone near me, so no surprise there. Speaking of Noah, he ignored me the entire day after I left him in the morning. It was his way of punishing me. I tried everything to get his attention, which he clearly enjoyed, but he continued to ignore me. Until I had enough and ignored him back for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. And guess what? He ended up crying like a baby, desperate for my attention. That was also the day I finally gathered the courage to tell my mom the truth. I liked guys. Not just any guy, but my own protector, Noah. Her reaction wasn't what I feared, it was even better. She happily accepted me, saying that all she wanted was my happiness. And when she said she actually liked Noah a lot, my heart nearly burst. She said if it was Noah, she wouldn't have to worry about me at all, knowing I'd be in good hands. Her love and acceptance made me emotional. As for Mr. Winslow, well, at first, he scolded Noah for making me fall for him, but later, he accepted us too. Before leaving for a work assignment in a foreign country, my mother gave us her blessings and took Mr. Winslow with her. Oh, did I mention? I officially took over my father's position as CEO of his company. At first, I was nervous and stressed, but Noah was always by my side, motivating me, making me feel capable and proud of myself. Now, about this man, the one I used to call a puppy all the time. Yes, he's still a puppy, caring, protective, and, of course, crazily in love with me. But sometimes, he's just too much. His possessiveness is extreme. He lets no one near me, especially strangers. If someone unfamiliar approaches me, he beats them first, then asks questions later. If I give anyone attention for more than 2 minutes without looking at him, he sulks the entire day. And in bed, oh, please, don't even ask. That man is a wild wolf in the disguise of a puppy. Once he starts, he never wants to stop, until I kick him off me. He wants it every night. And he's gotten a bit disobedient too. He doesn't call me brother anymore, just my name. Well, I like it. Now, he only calls me brother when he's sulking or wants attention. Tonight, the air was cold. I lay on the bed, my bare chest exposed, the blanket covering the rest of me. I was chatting with Henry, who had gone on vacation. We talked a lot, we were best friends now. Noah sat beside me, massaging my back after our wild session. My back ached, so he was helping me relax. Well, he still disliked me talking to Henry, but he was controlling himself. Are you done talking yet? Noah asked, pressing my waist. Why? I asked, only for him to lean in, take the phone from my hand, and kiss me. Because I want to have you again, he whispered against my lips. Huh, before I could even process his words, he pulled me into his embrace, kissing me like a beast. Well, that's it. This guy is rough, but also so gentle. And he's mine.